Hi everybody, I'm Kate Richberg for Beaducation.com, and today I have a terrific class for you. I'm going to teach you how to drill a variety of objects, stone, beads, different found objects, with a variety of tools, including a flex shaft, a rotary tool, and a drill press. It's going to be so much fun, and I promise you, you'll be able to drill through anything for your jewelry needs when we're done. But before we even jump in to look at tools or anything else, I do want to talk a little bit about safety. You know, when you're using a rotary tool, that rotary tool is whirring around, really quickly. So number one, we want to make sure if you have long, luscious locks that we want to tie them back. And you also don't want to have any, hanging sleeves or anything hanging off of your shirt, anything like that, because if that gets caught up in the rotary tool, it's really going to be trouble. Okay, so make sure to tie that hair back and secure any loose clothing. Then we also, of course, you guys, safety first with your eyes. We can't do jewelry if we can't see, so we want to make sure to wear some eye protection. Some safety glasses is always a good idea when you are working with a rotary tool. If you wear regular glasses like I do, what I like to do is I'll get my regular glasses and then I'll get a pair of safety glasses that I can actually, wear right over the top. You could also get a smaller pair of readers and kind of, perch them here and then put your safety glasses over the top of that. Just make sure that whatever you do, your eyes are covered and it's comfortable, because if it's not comfortable for you, you won't wear them. And then last but not least, when we're drilling, the drill does have a tendency to kick up some dust. So a dust mask that filters out all of that dust is a great idea. We want to take care of our lungs for sure, so we want to make sure that when we're drilling, put that dust mask on. And I know it's not a great fashion statement, but it'll really help you be safe. So with these things in mind, your dust mask, your safety glasses, and your hair tied back and ready to go, you're ready, I'm ready. Let's jump in. Here we've got a few items that we're going to be drilling, and I want to talk to you a little bit about how to figure out what you're going to drill, because each of these little piles of objects here are a little bit different as you put them underneath the drill. So let's take a look at these guys over here. This is kind of just an assortment of different stones. I've got kind of a little cabochon like ammonite piece over here. I've got this kind of cool little druzy-like piece here. This little round kind of mica piece that I've used. Just another little piece of stone that's cut out, and then some little chrysocolla beads that are right here. Now these guys here are a little hard, a little tougher to drill because the stone is a harder stone. So things like this, we're going to take a look at using some of the diamond drill bits with them. And you'll be able to get your drill through them with ease. They just might take a little bit longer, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Over here, we've actually got some things that already have holes in them. It's a variety of beads. We've got some turquoise, we've got some freshwater pearls. So we're going to talk about how to enlarge the holes in pieces like this. Because you know how it is, sometimes you're working with freshwater pearls and you're like, oh dang, I just wish that they were big enough to get leather through. Well, you know what? We're going to talk about how to enlarge those, and you're going to be stringing those on heavy gauge wire and thick leather before you know it. And then right down here we've got some found objects. This is a little resin cabochon here, and another little resin piece, and a couple of little wooden pieces that would be fun to have holes in. And these pieces are actually pretty easy to drill, and I'm going to talk to you about the specific way to drill those guys. But whatever you're choosing, you guys, to drill, the main thing is that you want to maybe test it a little bit, and we're going to actually talk about that with our drill bits when we use them. So I'm going to show you how we determine that. But for now, what I want you to do when you get started is take a look around your house, take a look in your bead box, take a look in, you know, your little drawer of bits and pieces, and find a couple of things that might be interesting to drill, and then we'll match them up to the technique as we go along. Let's take a look at the piece that we're going to be working on today. We're going to be actually drilling a whole lot of different things, but with this little ammonite cabochon that I have here, I'm also going to teach you how to make a pinch bail so you can make your drilled pieces into finished pieces of jewelry. So I've got my little sterling silver pinch bail here that's going right here inside that hole I drilled in that ammonite piece. You know, these drilled objects also will be perfect for you to wire wrap onto, or you could even slide them on a large jump ring. The sky's the limit. Now that we've looked at some of the stuff to drill, let's take a look at what we're going to drill those pieces on. Your work surface is actually pretty important as you're drilling, and I've got some options here for you. The main thing that you want to remember, you guys, with drilling is whatever it is you're drilling, it needs to be kept wet. And you can see right in here I have a little plastic container with some water in it, and that's the thing that's going to make drilling across the board really successful. So with the water, we need to have some kind of container to hold the water as we're drilling. So I've repurposed just a few items that I've had hanging around my studio to use as a base for my drilling. What I've got here are a few little soda lids, and the cool thing about these are you can just kind of dip your little cap here in the water, and if you're drilling something like a pearl or something like that that you need to be kept wet, see that little, how that soda container lid really just makes a perfect little receptacle for that pearl. You can also use metal soda lids as well and just add a little bit of water in there also, and that's a good way to just keep a little bit of water ready for your pieces. I have here, some of you may recognize this tool. This is a wooden dapping block, but I have repurposed this to use as a little well for my pieces as I drill. Especially if I'm drilling larger pieces like cabochons or found objects, I'll just put a little bit of water in the well of that dapping block. And this is the one I actually use in my studio. You can see it's very well loved. And all I do is I get my cabochon or my flat piece and I just throw it right in that well. The water level is pretty shallow, so when I go ahead and I dip my drill bit in to start drilling, it just leaves just enough water over the surface of that stone to keep it wet and lubricated, but it's not so high enough that the water is going to damage my drill or my Dremel tool. And finally, I have just a little block of wood, and if I am drilling something like this found object here, which doesn't need to be kept as wet, just depending, this is wood so I wouldn't need to wet it, but if this were like a little resin piece or something, I might want to lubricate it with a little bit of water. I can just go ahead and put a little bit of water kind of down on the surface of that wood if I wanted to, just to kind of wet it up, and then I'll put my piece on top of that, and it gives me just enough water to work with as I'm drilling. So these three pieces I think are pretty essential. You can kind of look around your studio or your house to repurpose some things. We've got that wood dapping block, we've got these soda lids, and just a little piece of a wood block. And of course some water and a nice little surface that you want to work on. I like to work on a few layers of paper towel. So here we've got a variety of the bits that we're actually going to use to drill our pieces. And before we talk about the specifics of these, I want to talk to you in general about where to find the bits. Now, at Beaducation, we carry a variety of those bits. You can kind of check it out and see what we've got going on the site. But you can also kind of check around, you know, at your hardware store, online, kind of take a look around out there because there are so many different bits that you can use. These are some of my favorites, but you know, the bits are small, so kids, stock up because each one of these does a very different operation as we're drilling. So let's jump in and talk about what these different things do. So here I've got just some simple little drill bits, twist drills that we're going to use to drill through our resin and our wood. And then we've got here a little diamond bead reamer bit, and this is actually what we're going to use to enlarge our holes with. See the very tip of this diamond drill bit? You can kind of see how it has a ripple to it, and that's just what these guys are called. They're called a triple ripple bit. And the cool thing about those bits is, since that little wave or ripple in them, that helps them chew through things that are a little bit harder. So if you have harder stones or even glass, these triple ripple bits are the way to go. Okay, we're going to switch it up a little bit here, you guys. We were using the flex shaft, but for this drilling segment, we're going to use a different kind of rotary tool. In this case, I'm using a Dremel here, and this Dremel has a cord. It's not a cordless Dremel. I feel that the plug-in kind have a little more heft behind them, so I like to use these for drilling. And you know what? You can find these at your local hardware store, but I bet if you go to your closet or into the garage where you keep your tools, I bet there's a Dremel case sitting right there with an unused Dremel in it. I suggest grabbing it, opening it up, and starting to use it, because it can really be your best friend when it comes to making jewelry. And we're going to make it even easier to use this Dremel. We're going to use a universal chuck on the top. You know how Dremels come with a little collet here on the center, and you change those collets out depending on the size of the mandrel of the piece that you're using. But the cool thing about the universal chuck is, you guys, is that it is a universal chuck. It accommodates all different sizes of mandrels here. So I'm going to put this on. All we do is screw this right on the tip, just like so. And you can find these also wherever you find Dremels are sold. And I'm going to tighten that up there, and then I'm going to continue to tighten it up. I'm going to push this little button down and continue to tighten so that chuck is on there nice and tight. Now as I tighten, it also closes the tip of the chuck. So I don't want to close it all the way. I want to make sure it's big enough. Oh, see, I closed it just a little too much. So I'm going to open it back up, slide my little drill, and you know, whatever drill size you use really depends on the size of the hole that you want in your piece. This is kind of a not too big, not too small. Maybe it'll fit about a 14 gauge wire through there, so I'm pretty happy with that. And again, just like we did with the flex shaft, you guys, I want to pull on that, make sure it's nice and tight in the chuck, and let's look at it face on, see how it's centered in there really nicely. Can you see that? So now we're ready to start drilling. Okay, here are a couple of found objects I have that we can drill. I've got this wood piece here and this resin piece here. Both of these will drill really well with this little twist drill bit. Again, we want to make sure always, you guys, to have this wet. So I'm going to get a little bit of water just in my little lid here. I'm going to pour just a little bit on the surface of this wood block. The wood's going to kind of hang on to some of that water. Now, if I were drilling, I'm actually going to drill our wood piece, but I want to share a little bit. If I'm drilling resin, I can have that little reservoir in the back here, and I can dip my drill tip into there. And again, it's on this wet surface. So especially with this resin, it's plastic. So the water also keeps down on the dust as well. So, and of course, I'll be wearing my safety glasses and my dust mask as well as an extra safety precaution. So as we start, I'm going to pull in my little wood piece here. I'm going to dip my tip in there. It's not as important actually to keep the wood lubricated, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. But like I did earlier when I came in at an angle to start to drill, I'm going to do that as well here. And that angle is just going to help start my little hole. Then once I have a little divot, I'm going to go ahead and reposition my Dremel and then come in and drill straight through. Now, the Dremel here, you can see it has some different numbers on the side that, depending on the kind that you have, it may have numbers, or it may have more or fewer numbers, or it may say high, medium, and low. But I like to start it kind of at a medium speed here. I don't usually go all the way up to the 10. That really ramps us up a little too fast for the handheld drilling that I want to do. So I'm going to go on and turn on my Dremel. And I'm about, I don't know, maybe it's 6. That looks good. Now we're going to get this into position. Keep your fingers out of the way and get that little side drill. Just like so. Now I'm going to come in so I have a little placeholder straight up and down. Drill all the way through and pull it all the way back. Now my little block of wood, when my drill, let me turn that off there, when my drill pierced through this piece, it pierced also into the little wood block, so I didn't hurt my table or the surface that I was drilling on. So you can see that just went through just like butter. Super simple. Okay, so let's jump in and drill our first object here. We've got this little cabochon that we're going to drill, and we've got our wooden dapping block that we're going to drill. We're going to have it hold while we're drilling. But first, you guys, before we start to drill, we've got to add our drill bit into the tool that we're going to be drilling with. So in this case, I'm using this triple ripple bit right here, and I'm using the flex shaft. So let me show you how I put this drill bit into the flex shaft. I've closed the tip of the flex shaft up pretty tightly because this shank on this bit is pretty small. So I don't want to fumble by closing it up too much, having it too large and try and close it up and have it be difficult for me. So you can see I've closed it pretty tightly, and now I'm going to get the key and tighten that chuck right here, nice and tight, just like so. Now you want to check for a couple of things, you guys, after you've put the drill bit in. Let's take a look here at the tip. I'm going to pull onto this. Can you see that? So I know that it's nice and tight in there. And I'm also going to check right at the tip of where the chuck closes around the drill bit. Can you see how that bit is nice and centered in the middle of these 3 little lines? It's easy when your drill bit is so thin like this one is to get it seated kind of incorrectly. So when you turn on this flex shaft, the drill bit would kind of rotate and you could see it would be all wonky and funny. So we want to make sure it's nice and centered in the middle right there perfectly. And again, give it a little tug so we know that it's nice and tight. So once we've got that going, we're going to pull our piece that we're going to drill right to the center. And remember, the secret to a good successful drill is that we need water in our with our stone. So I'm just going to get my little cap and pour a little bit of water into the well of the dapping block, and I just want it to maybe come just slightly over the stone. It's not coming up hardly at all over the top. Okay, and you can see when I get my drill into position where I'm going to be drilling it, I can come in and I can see that it's not going to, come up and over the top of my flex shaft. So you just need the tip really to be covered, and I'm going to be dipping it in and out like that as well. So the way we're going to hold this drill, the handle of the flex shaft, is we want to make sure as we're drilling, let me just adjust my hand here. As we're drilling, we want to come straight up and down. We don't want our hole to go in at an angle. And you know, sometimes the flex shaft can get a little heavy, so you want to be really mindful and aware that your hand is coming in at a right angle to whatever it is you're drilling. And since I'm right-handed, you guys, I'm holding my flex shaft in my right hand, and I'm securing my drilling apparatus here, what I'm drilling into, with my left. Periodically, I may want to come in and just hold, you know, my finger here to hold my piece in place. And we want to be really mindful here about, you know, where your finger is placed, how close it is to the drill bit. And so just be really aware as we're doing that. And you'll see I'm going to hold my finger kind of further out here to hold this guy in place, and I'm going to come in and drill into the tip there. So let's get started. It's going to be kind of loud, so you're going to hear the drill come in and pierce the material. One thing I do want to point out, and I really want to show you this nice and tight, this first step when we're drilling, you guys. See how my drill bit is going to come in? It's going to come in at an angle, and then I'm going to just rotate that flex shaft so it's that right angle, straight up and down. That's when we're going to really start to, the drill's going to really start to work. But if I don't do that little angle here and bring it up, if I just bring my bit down onto the surface of my piece, it's going to skitter all over the place and walk all over the front of my cabochon. So this is the real trick here. Start it right at an angle. You see that? And I'm going to just then, as the drill is going, bring it right in at that right angle there. That's going to give you a nice, slow, even kind of chomp in, and then we're going to start to drill. So the other thing I want to mention, you guys, with this diamond tipped drill bit is we want the drill to do the work. Now, it's super tempting once your flex shaft is here and you're drilling and it's like, you know, you're going for it and everything's great. It's like you want to just get your fist in there and just drill that sucker so it's, you know, drills as quickly as you can. You know, the drill bits, this is really when you want to think to yourself, I'm letting the tool do the work. I'm letting the tool do the work. Because if you press too hard on this diamond tip drill bit as you're drilling, it's not going to make this drill bit work any better. It's actually going to make it work less effectively. A light hand, you guys, just a really light, and let the weight of the flex shaft kind of be the weight or the push that you're doing behind the drill. And the drill, some stones take longer than others. Some are just harder than others. Use your patience, use the water to continue to lubricate, and you'll be through that stone before you know it. So let me actually show you how I do this. So let's fire up this drill and let's start drilling. I've got my safety glasses and my desk mask on, so I am ready to start drilling through this stone. Remember that the flex shaft is controlled by the foot pedal. So the foot pedal makes this drill rotate either faster or slower. And I want to start off kind of slow, not super fast. I don't want to put the pedal to the metal quite yet as I'm drilling. So I'm going to come in here right at the angle. And I've also, my arms are really rested and kind of locked onto the table so they're supported. So I'm not going to be moving the drill bit around as much. They'll be supported that way. I'm going to press my foot pedal down, start the rotation, touch down, and rotate up. And now I'm going to stop, just like so. And I'm going to dip and make sure I've got a little more water. I can even get a little water on the surface here. But I want to make sure right away that my stone is wet. Now, there's a couple of things I want you to watch for, and I want to tell you this before we go any further. Stones, when they're wet, that water lubricates the tip of this drill. You can tell that you don't have enough lubrication if you start to see that powder build up around the hole of the stone. And if that powder starts to turn gray, that means that you are just burning the inside of that stone with, you know, the drill bit. The friction is creating just too much of it's like burning right on the inside of the hole there. And that is a recipe for disaster. That's when your stone's going to break or your drill bit's going to break. So slow and steady, wet and lubricate. So let me get right back into that hole I've made. I'm going to put my flex shaft into position now, and I'm going to start to drill. I'm going to exert a little bit of force, but now you can see how I've got a little bit of powder coming out of there. That's when I know to dip again. I can dip again in here, or I can even come in and add a little more water to the surface of my stone. Bring it right back in, and can you see there how the drill bit's going a little bit deeper in there? So let's keep on drilling. You see, we can see that excess stone coming right out, and I can feel, you can kind of feel, you guys, as you're drilling, kind of feel the bottom of that drill tip with your tool, and you can kind of feel that you're getting close to the bottom here. So I'm going to reposition a little bit and continue. Give it a little bit of pressure, not much. And I can feel that. Did you see how my tip just kind of fell right through the stone? Let's take a look here. You get the water out. Look at that. Can you see? Look at, we can see right through that hole. Isn't that great? And let's check out the back. Perfect. Now, I wasn't pushing, so I mean, it was having a little bit of force on this, but not pushing it with a super heavy hand. So when it broke through the back of the stone, it's actually a pretty clean cut right there. I didn't have any chipping or anything like that. Perfect. All right. That's all there is to drilling that guy right there. Here we have another way to drill your projects. This is a bench top drill press, and this kind of takes the guesswork out of it for you. You know, it's all, the drill is all here in this top part, and you put, this is the chuck of the drill press, and we've just put that same drill bit that I showed you earlier into the drill press using the chuck key. So it's just like a regular drill, except it's on this handy dandy little stand. And the way that it works is this little handle that's right here, you bring this down, and that's what lowers the drill, and very easily and efficiently, you just come right on down as the drill is turned on, and it just, you push and the drill rotates and it drills your hole. There's no, you know, holding or kind of worrying about is your drill off center or anything like that. So it's a really great kind of handy dandy all-in-one tool. What I've done here though is I've kind of put together our little drilling surface, and I have my block of wood that's right here, and I've used a little soda top because we're going to be drilling this little resin piece here. And resin, we really want to make sure that we're drilling that resin wet, because we want to make sure that we don't have any dust that's coming up off of that resin piece to breathe in. So just like we have before, where we have our safety glasses on, we've got our dust mask on, and we're just going to come on in and drill this. So I'm going to turn on the drill press, and you can see how the drill starts to rotate. And I've placed I'm actually going to turn this off for just a second, because I want to show you guys real quick, just to make sure you can kind of eyeball where you want that hole. You could also, if you wanted to, mark it with a permanent marker as well so you know what you're aiming for. But I'm going to aim for right there. So now I'm going to turn on my press and I'm going to bring my drill straight down, exerting a little bit of pressure, not a whole lot. Let the drill do the work. And you can see that it was just that easy. I'm going to double check to make sure I went through all the way through. It wasn't quite through. I didn't feel it pop through. So I will go one more time. So I'm holding the piece now from the back so you have a little bit of a better view of that drill coming down into the piece. So let's finish up that hole. And you can see, there we go, how nice that hole, super clean all the way through. Now, I used my little bottle cap here, and I liked the bottle cap. As I said before, it contains the water here to help the piece drill. But also, if you pierce through this bottle cap, it's not the end of the world, right? The drill press, the drill may just press and go right on through the metal, you know, if you're not paying attention or if you use a little more force, and then it would just go down into this block of wood. It's no big deal if you pierce through this bottle cap. You know, there's a million sodas to drink, you guys, so there's a bunch of bottle caps at your disposal. So just get a fresh one if you do drill through your piece. Okay, you guys, so as you saw, this cabochon with the ammonite in it, it was a pretty soft stone, so it drilled pretty quickly. But let's say that you have a piece of agate or something that's a little tougher to drill, you know, a little bit harder. I used that triple ripple bit. It was a pretty small one. I think it was about a 1.4 millimeter in size. So if I were drilling something that was harder, I could use that small triple ripple to act as my little pilot hole, right? And then if I wanted to enlarge that hole, I could come in and put a larger drill bit in my flex shaft. And you can see this one's, it's a little bit bigger. It's going to make the hole a little bit larger here. We're just going to enlarge it. So I put my stone right back in its little surface, and you just come in and drill again, and it's going to enlarge that hole. I'll do that for you real quick here. And you can see with that pilot hole, this went a lot faster. And can you see how this bit really enlarged that hole quite a bit? Now, because of the angle of the camera, you guys, it may have looked like the flex shaft was coming in at an angle here with the stone, but let me tell you, I really made sure to make sure that I was straight up and down coming in at a right angle, and you want to make sure to do that as well as you're drilling. So I want to show you one more little tip on how to finish off this hole. It's an optional step for sure. We're going to actually dress this hole just a little bit and give it a little bit of a curve. But can you see how I'm holding it there? The hole looks pretty nice, but let's take it just one step further. I'm going to change out my bit and then I'll show you what we're going to do. Now we're just going to dress this little hole that we've drilled, and I've got a couple of different ball burrs here that I want to show you. Here in my hand I have a little diamond tipped ball burr, and this is great if your stones are a little bit harder. You might want to move to diamond. But I've got a regular ball burr here like I would use for a setting burr, and I've just put that right into the tip of my flex shaft. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come down right at that right angle again, just whir it a couple of times right onto the hole, and you can see kind of with the side view, I'm going to angle it here, you can see that ball burr is just going to rotate, and it's going to give a nice little lip or a nice little edge to finish off that hole. So let's go ahead and finish this off. Come in at that right angle, you guys, right there, so it's nice and even. Putting my finger well out of the way, right on the stone, and without pushing too hard on the flex shaft, I'm just going to turn it on to rotate the tip. Maybe in one more. And let's take a look and see what that did there. And can you see, let me get it right up and tight. It's given me a nice little lip, nice little edge right around, there you go. See that there? And if you want a little more of an edge, just go back in and give it one more go. See how the burr also draws the water up through the hole? That's super helpful as well to keep this from breaking. Let me dry this off real well. There we go. You can really see that nice edge now. Perfect. And you just repeat this on the other side, and you've got a beautifully drilled, nicely finished hole. All right, let's enlarge this hole in this pearl. Remember how I talked about making a hole in a freshwater pearl, or really a variety of different beads for that matter, large enough so you can string them on leather or on heavy gauge wire. Well, this is how we do it, you guys. So here I have another diamond tipped tool. I've got the diamond tipped bead reamer here, and notice how it's tapered. That makes enlarging a hole actually pretty simple. So I've also wrapped, you may be wondering, Kate, what the heck is that on your fingers? Well, it's called Finger Pro, and it's a finger wrap tape that kind of sticks to itself and sticks to your fingers. And since I'm going to be holding this pearl in my fingers, it helps to protect my fingers when I'm drilling, as well as it helps me grip this pearl really tightly. So it's a good safety measure here. And the other thing I want to mention, when I'm holding this pearl to drill, I kind of curl my fingers back and out of the way, so as I'm drilling through, I don't accidentally drill through my pearl and then into my fingers. Okay, so we want to tuck those fingers away. I also have, for my little water receptacle here, I have a soda pop lid here, and I can frequently dip my pearl and the tip of my tool right in there. So that's a handy little reservoir for my water. So I'm going to start by getting the pearl kind of wet here, and I can just kind of put it on the tip of my tool here to get some water in there and a little bit of water on the tip of the reamer. And I'm going to come in straight again, and we're going to just press on that foot pedal and start the drilling process. And remember, let the tool do the work, you guys. Don't push on this reamer too hard. And see how already we're getting some drilling action there, but we want to make sure that this is pretty wet. So I'm going to just dip this right back in there, get some water on there, get some water on the tip of my tool, and keep going. And dip that tip pretty frequently so this stays lubricated. And then what I can do is I can also come at it, flip this pearl over so I'm being equal, so I'm not drilling a taper. Get that wet again, but you can see even from the tip, see how far I've enlarged that hole. And as soon as you start to see that little dust come out of the pearl, that's the time. If you need to get a little more water, which I'm going to do here, there we go. That's the time to dip it in there. I want to give you one tip here so that you don't drill a taper into your pearl. Remember, this tip that we're using, it's tapered, and you can see I've enlarged the hole. It's pretty big here, and we can see the tip coming out the other side. And we've been rotating this pearl back and forth, but I also want to make sure that the interior of this pearl isn't drilled into a tiny taper in the middle. So one of the things I do to prevent that is, as I'm drilling, I kind of rotate the reamer inside the pearl just to make sure that everything's pretty even. So watch how I do that. We're going to slide this on, and I'm just going to see how I rotate that, and I can get all sides of the hole, just like so with the tip. And I'll do it again on the other side as well. And I felt that just broke through to the other side where it was enlarged. So I'm gonna, whoops, get it wet again. Get that in there and keep going. And you can continue to drill and enlarge that hole as much as you like. But let me show you here. Wipe that away, rinse that pearl off so it looks real nice, as you can see. There we go. See, look at that. We've enlarged that quite a bit. So you can continue just in that same vein, however large you need that pearl hole to be. But remember, lubricate that drill tip, go slow and steady, and you'll enlarge that hole right as much as you need it. Now we're going to take this design one step further. We are going to add a little decorative bail right into that hole that we drilled in this ammonite cabochon. So I've got my bench block here, and I'm going to texture using one of my favorite texturing tools, which is my riveting hammer. I use the riveting side of that riveting hammer. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to use that to texture along this piece of 14 gauge sterling silver wire. You can use any kind of metal that you want. I'm going to use sterling silver because I think it'll look nice with this ammonite piece. And I'm just going to come in and strike along the wire here. And what that's going to do is it's going to splay the wire out, and it's also going to add a nice little texture to the piece. So let's go ahead and give this some texture. And as I'm hammering, can you see just those little kind of random little bands of texture coming across on the metal? You can see that the wire is starting to become work hardened here as it curls up, but we're not going to worry about that. We're going to anneal it when I'm done. And also, this is about a 3-inch piece of wire. You'll kind of guesstimate how much wire you need according to the piece that you're making the bail for. But this I'm actually making probably a little bit extra, a little more than I need. And see where the riveting hammer is hitting the metal. I'm hitting it with just that edge, that pointy edge of the back of the riveting hammer. That's what's making my little bands of texture. Okay, depending on how much wire I need or how tall I want the bail to be, I'm going to bring my little ammonite piece in there. And I can see, you know, if I bend it down, it's going to go into that hole. And I want it not too super tall, and I'm going to bend it down and have the other end poke into that hole there. It looks like I probably have about enough wire done, so I'm going to give you a real life measurement on that just so we know how much that is. It's a little under 2 inches, maybe about 1 3/4 inches or so, what we have here. Now we really do need to, this wire is super stiff, you can see, I can hardly even bend it. So we need to go ahead and anneal this, soften it back up, and I can continue to texture it if I want to here. And then we'll create our bail. All right, I'm going to turn on my Dremel. Not too fast. There we go. Hold it steady, and I'm going to bring my little bail right up to the grinding wheel. I'm going to turn it to the side and grind a little taper into the side of the wire. And I'll flip and do the other side. Then I'll check the front, that's looking good, but I'm going to continue on. I want a little more of a taper there. And I'll do the other side again, flip it, like so. Maybe one more little touch. We go. Let's take a look at what we've got. It's a lot faster than using a file, right? That little taper there with the Dremel. Let's take a look. Look at how nice. Got a nice little edge there. Now I'm going to come in and see how it fits in the hole of my bead. There we go. And can you see how it goes in just about halfway there, which looks about right. So now I'm going to taper the other side, and we'll go ahead and finish shaping our bail. All right, I've got a little bit of fine grit sandpaper here, about a 600 grit, that I'm just going to swipe the ends of my bail just along. That sanding disc that I used wasn't too coarse, but I want to make sure that I get rid of any little burrs on the ends. So I'm just going to rub that right on there to get a nice clean finish end. There we go. Now once this is all clean, I'm going to come in with my flat nose plier here, and the hole, when I measured it, I'm just going to eyeball this really. It's only about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to come in and grab that with my flat nose. I'm going to bend up at an angle. So see what we've got there? Got a nice, it looks like a little guy walking right along, right? With his little, or a little snake head or something, right? We're going to do the same thing to the other side. Grab it just where that taper ends. Maybe a little beyond that. And really use the side of that tool to get a nice right-angled bend. Let's look there. Great. Looks good. So we've got our two little ends here. This one's a little, might be a little short. I'm going to just come in and make that just a hair longer. There we go. And you can see if this is a little long, we'll adjust it later, but I think that looks about right. Now we can use our ruler to measure, but I am going to eyeball this right about in the center. I'm going to call that the center there. And I'm going to come in and bend on both sides to form that little triangle bail. And check that out. That's pretty close. It's not too bad. So I'm going to even this out so they meet. And if one side is a little longer than the other, it's not going to make that much difference. As long as they meet securely in the middle of your hole, I think it'll be just fine. I'll play around with the shape of this as well. You could use a round nose plier as well, but you know, I kind of like this chain nose to kind of come in and help me shape everything. There we go. That looks like a pretty good little curve. Now, here's my stone. Let's come in. See how I just snapped that right into place? I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm just going to pinch that right in. And since our little bail, the little legs of the bail are kind of flat, you can even file them a little bit flatter if you needed to, but they fit right in that hole. And if I need a little extra help, what I can do is, I'm going to open this up. If I need a little extra help getting them nice and tight, I'll come in and gently squeeze with my flat nose. You could also do this with your wire straightener or your nylon jawed plier. You could do that too. But see how I'm just gently coaxing that bail to my whim. And see how I made a nice long bail there. Look at how terrific that looks up front. And see, look at the side view, you guys. Those little tapers have really nestled right in there. And since my metal was annealed, it wasn't super springy, so I could really just form it nicely there. And as I was forming with my plier, it really did work harden that wire nicely, and I paid extra close attention to this little bend as well to make sure it's nice and tight. That just that little bit of compression there also helps work harden it, and that's what keeps this bail in place. Now it's all ready for me to make a piece of jewelry. Well, thanks so much for joining me in class, you guys. I hoped you enjoyed learning how to drill a variety of objects with a variety of great tools. Now, if you enjoyed this class, don't forget to hit that like button. And remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's a whole bunch of great videos on there that's going to teach you a whole lot of great tips and tricks. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.